So they'll be doing the first presentation. And the second presentation is about our kindergartners and their transition into school from our school counseling department. That's going to be led by our director of school counseling, which is Mr. Jim O'Hara, who's here with us tonight. I'm going to ask if you have any questions throughout either of the presentations that you kindly put them into the chat room. And then I will respond to all questions at the end, and I'll forward them to the panel as we proceed towards the end of the presentation. How does that sound? Sound good? Okay, great. So we'important's get started with Lauren and Catherine.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about kindergarten pre-reading skills and the importance of rhyming and things you can do at home to continue to support your child. So we're going to first we'll talk about phonological awareness. So this is just a short introductory video just to give a little background knowledge about what we're going to be covering this evening.
Phonological awareness, or PA, is an essential skill that helps children learning to read or write. Having good PA skills allows a child to play around with sounds and understand how they fit into words. Researchers found that children with strong PA skills are going to have more success reading and spelling when they begin school. Phonological awareness skills include recognizing rhyming words. Does cat rhyme with shoe? No. Does cat rhyme with bat? Yes. Identifying sounds in words. Sound at the end of hat. T. Blending sounds to make words. What word do these sounds make? M, e, p, map. What sounds can you hear in the word moon? M, oo, n. And finally, changing a single sound to make a different word. If you swap the s sound in sad with a d, what word does it make? Dad. Nursery rhymes or rhyming storybooks are a great way to develop a child's understanding of rhyming patterns. Dr. Seuss books are fantastic for this. For example, this is an extract from Hop on Pop. Hop, pop. We like to hop. We like to hop on pop. Driving in the car is a great chance to practice naming as many rhyming words as possible. For example, what rhymes with the word dog? Dog. Frog. Log. Blocks are a great way to visually represent sounds and how they form words. Here are some examples of how you can use blocks to practice blending, segmenting, and changing sounds. These sounds are p, g. What word does that make? Pig. If this says pig, what is each sound? P, g. If this word says pig, can you change it to dig? Well done, dig. Phonological awareness is an important pre-literacy skill. Simple rhyming and sound play games can significantly help to increase a child's phonological awareness.
Okay, so that was just an introduction about what we're going to be covering tonight. Katie?
So the goals for tonight are to understand the learning progression that takes place with readers and writers. We want to discuss the importance of rhyming, sequencing, and its impact on early reading ability. And we want to provide strategies and activities to utilize at home, and most importantly, to connect to real-life experiences.
Okay. So what are pre-reading and phonological awareness skills? So phonological awareness is the ability to think about, recognize, and manipulate sounds in spoken language. These skills are acquired on a continuum, increasing in difficulty over time. Phonological awareness is one of the most important predictors of a child's reading success and their ability to read. So when we look at the progression, listening, rhyming and alliteration, sentence segmentation, syllable awareness, onset at rhyme, and phonemic awareness is how your phonological awareness skills will build.
So first, we're going to start with listening. So we want to make sure that we get our child and our students' interest to hearing it, and we want them to hear these rhymes. So how can we do that? We want to read books using the sing-songy voice, changing your intonation, going up, going down, really putting pitch patterns to emphasize those rhymes in a fun way that's going to expose your child to the world of rhyming. So this little excerpt that we have from the Magic Hat really shows a great example of how to read to your child using this shared book reading with this change in intonation. Why don't we play a little, Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful pictures is Trisha Tusa. Are you ready? Here we go. One fine day, from out of town, and without any warning at all, there appeared a magic hat. Oh, the magic hat, the magic hat. It moved like this, it moved like that. It spun through the air and over a road and sat on the head of a warty old toad. Oh, the magic hat, the magic hat. It moved like this, it moved like that. It spun through the air like
Yeah, so she really used her intonation. She created that sing-songy sound. She used a pause there to really emphasize the target rhyme there as well. And that's something that we want to do when we're sharing book reading at home with our child. We want to make sure that we have that child listen and be drawn in to hear those rhymes. And that's the first step in our process here.
Okay. So listening to rhyme is a skill that takes place in 3 stages for children. So the first stage is the exposure to rhymes. So like Katie was saying, just listen, having the exposure, hearing the rhymes over and over again, and then being able to recognize the rhymes. Oh, those words rhyme. Hat and bat, toad and road. Those rhyme. And then being able to produce the rhymes themselves is the third step.
So exposure to rhyme, right? How can we expose our children to rhyme? We can begin to develop their awareness by exposing them to rhyme through fun, different interactive activities. We can have nursery rhymes, bring back the nursery rhymes, right? Books, songs, all of these fun ways to get that melodic intonation in there and to get that rhyming in their head so they can remember, oh, those words rhyme. I know what that sounds like. So you can make these fun experiences and you could point out the rhymes as they're happening in these nursery rhymes. We can say can and man rhyme because they both end with an. Now you could sound it out for them. Say an, an, with the emphasis on that and the ending of there. You could have them watch fun videos like this rhyming rhino, Rocco the Rhyming Rhino. Lauren, you want to play that for a sec?
Yeah, this is Jack Hartman. He has a lot of good rhyming videos.
Jack Hartman, Kids Music
Rocco, the rhyming rhino. He knows how to rhyme lots of words. He listens with his ears, thinks with his mind, and then he sings out a word that rhymes. When you say hat, Rocco says cat. When you say hi, Rocco says bye. When you say man, Rocco says can. When you say hug, Rocco says bug.
So that's just a fun way, a sing-songy way, a catchy tune to expose your child to a rhyme. Right. So the next step is hearing the rhyme. Children begin to hear and are aware when words rhyme or do not rhyme. So you can practice this anytime at home. So if you're reading to them, oh, look, hop and pop, does that rhyme? Hop and cat, does that rhyme? If you're singing in the car or cooking dinner, an example, when you're eating a family meal together, dinner and winner, do those rhyme? Give me a thumbs up. How about fork and spoon? Do those rhyme? Thumbs down, and try to come up with different words that rhyme and don't rhyme, and give them, have them use the thumb up or the thumb down to kind of give a yes and a no answer. Picking up rhymes in books with predictable texts. Brown bear, what do you see? How it's repetitive like that. It can help children recognize a rhyme with that repetitiveness and be more aware that it's coming. This is just another silly video, a silly story that gives, more rhymes.
Dog and a frog? Hey, dog, get off the frog, said the frog. But I like sitting on frogs, said the dog. Frogs are all squishy and squashy, and when you sit on them, they go croak. You know the rules, said the cat. Cats sit on mats, frogs sit on logs, and dogs sit on frogs.
So with this, I feel like the children would, buy into the characters, the grumpy cat, the silly dog, and the silly frog, just giving them the opportunity to hear more rhymes.
So the fun part now is when they start to produce the rhyme, right? Now they've listened, they've had the exposure, we've brought in nursery rhyme songs. Now we're going to have them actually produce the rhyme, right? So this develops their confidence and success in producing rhymes. They begin to understand similarities among words, and they begin to identify sounds that come first and last. This is so important for developing their early writing skills and reading skills as well. So you can make this fun. You could play a game at home. You could play a game of catch, right? You could say, when I catch the ball, I'm going to rhyme a word with ball. When you catch the word, you rhyme the word with ball. Let me go first. Okay, I caught the ball. Ball, call. Yep, that rhymes. Your turn. Throw the ball. They catch it. Ball, haul. That rhymes. Great. I love it. And even if they say a word that's not necessarily a real word, like ball, you could say, okay, that's not a real word, but I love that you rhymed. I love that you're learning how to rhyme. This is great. And encourage that progress. We have a cute little video here of another game-like version of rhyming that you can play at home.
Jack Cartman, Kids Music Channel.
I love to rhyme. You love to rhyme. Let's rhyme together and have a good time. I'll say 2 words that rhyme, then you help me out. You think of a 3rd word that rhymes with mine and say it right out loud. Cat, sat, dog, log, big, wig, ham, Sam.
You got the picture.
Oh, yeah. All right. So another way to help your child produce rhymes is what we call bouncing the rhyme. This is just a strategy to try at home. It just provides your child with multiple auditory repetitions, so they're hearing it constantly and understanding that ending sound. So for example, the word cat, you could bounce it k, at. And then the word mat, at. Did you hear how those were the same? At, mat. Just identifying that those sounds are the same. Hop, op, log, og. Those are different, so those don't rhyme. And just giving that constant repetition auditorily so they can hear it more frequently.
So here's a bunch of different rhyming books that we enjoy, and we think that you could take, jot down the titles of them. But things like The Gruffalo is a great one. brown bear, what do you see? Chicka, chicka, boom, boom. These all have great rhyming patterns in there. A lot of predictable responses that the child can give that have that rhyming word in there. So they're able to hear it, they're able to identify it, they're able to be exposed to it, and then they're also able to produce it, which is great.
And if you can use that sing-songy intonation while you're reading to help, get your child to listen to the rhymes even more. There's also a lot of rhyming songs. You could practice singing rhyming songs at bedtime, in the car, play them on the radio or on Spotify. I guess it's really not the radio anymore. While taking a walk during play, you could have your child sing to their dolls or sing to their dinosaurs. There's a lot of good videos. The Laurie Berkner Band, the Learning Station, Jack Hartman, which we showed you a couple of. And then even just like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and I'm a Little Teapot, Jack and Jill. Those are all songs, rhyming songs that your child should, is most likely already familiar with. So if you just sing them again, but then work to point out the rhymes and use the intonation to help them identify the rhymes. Oh, there we go.
So the other area that we want to talk about that's really going to help your child comprehend, read, write, understanding those rhymes as well, is that we need to understand how to sequence. So introducing children to words such as first, next, then, last, right? Or beginning, middle, end, that teaches students these spatial concepts that they need to know when they're going to look at words and how to manipulate them for rhyming, for reading, for spelling. So that's sequencing anything in life, right? Sequencing those daily activities like cooking, baking, even getting dressed. What do we do first? What do we do next? What do we do then? What do we do last? What happens in the beginning of the day? What happens in the middle of the day? What happens at the end of the day? Them understanding that those different spatial concepts will help them manipulate the different sounds, and that is going to increase their ability to read and write as well.
Because like the introductory video showed, it was pig, egg, first, second, third, beginning, middle, end. And when they have the exposure to those concept words, then they're going to start to understand how to segment and manipulate the words later on. Sequencing and actions. So this is kind of just like what Katie was talking about. You're going to talk about the events of a story while you're reading it. Go back and recap what happened first, what happened second, what happened at the end. When you're making dinner, first I need to do this, then I'm going to do that. Last, we're going to eat, and just continue to narrate throughout your day, brushing your teeth, just to constantly expose your children to those concept words. Oh my goodness. Sorry. They're all played. All right, let's see.
Yeah, and we could also sequence in songs. So songs that all the children know, like Old MacDonald Had a Farm. That helps us with that predictable order. So the student can learn to sequence and retell the story with their reading and their writing. You can ask questions like, who was the first person on the farm? Who was the last person who came to the farm? What did we do first with Wheels on the Bus? What happened last with Wheels on the Bus? Just to have that idea of understanding first, middle, last, beginning, middle, end.
We just want to say thank you for your time. We just also want to encourage you that there in the main office, there's a lending library of different games, opportunities for you to have family moments, to focus on rhyming, to work on sequencing, and just have that time together as a family.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Culkin, and thank you, Ms. Trey-Pagan. We really appreciate your time and your efforts in presenting this information to our parents today. We're now going to turn over the meeting to Mr. Jim O'Hara, who's our Director of School Counseling, and he's going to give us a presentation on the transition to kindergarten for parents.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kraft. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I just want to start with also thanking our wonderful speech pathologist for letting me hop on here and talk for a little bit just about kindergarten transition on behalf of the school counselors and the whole school counseling department as a whole. So thank you for giving us some time here. I want to welcome all the parents, our kindergarten parents. This is a major milestone for you, for your children. It's a major transition point. And I just want to make sure that we talk about that and we give some tips and some advice and let you know what you can expect from your school and your school counselors this year and beyond. So really the goal for me for tonight in speaking with you is to introduce you to what school counseling is and really what you can expect this year and moving forward. Okay. The field of school counseling has changed, greatly for the good over the last 5 to 10 years. School counseling in general, as you can see here, as defined by the American School Counselor Association, we are certified educators who improve student success for all students by implementing a comprehensive school counseling program. We want to maximize student success, promoting access for all students. And my favorite, most important part here is that school counselors are proactive and create a school culture of success for all. That proactive piece is really, really important, which I'll speak about in a moment. And really, as you can see with the graphic, but also at the bottom here, kind of our trifecta, the 3 areas that us school counselors really focus on at all levels, K through 12, are our academics, our social emotional well-being, and eventually our planning for future post-secondary options in their future. And I know in a kindergarten presentation, it's interesting to speak about that, but really that looks very different at different grade levels. And at the younger grade levels, for me, what that really means is helping students get to know and get a better sense of who they are as people, their strengths, their interests, so that eventually when those big decisions come down the road, they have a greater sense of identity in who they are. Okay, so that's really how that applies, in my mind, to that kindergarten level and that elementary level. And as you can also see, yes, we are school counselors. Things have changed since a lot of us adults have been in schools. We are no longer guidance counselors. We are school counselors, and we take that professionalism seriously. So tonight I'm speaking on behalf, and I want to make sure I introduce our elementary counselors that your children will be familiar with this year. Ms. Diana Capani, who spends her time at George Washington and Lenape, as well as Ms. Kyla Murphy, who spends her time at Betsy Ross and Lenape Meadows as well. Okay, so we have counselors who work together. They'll split their time between these buildings, and they also have planning time where they'll work together and also meet with me to make sure we're supporting students. But those are your counselors who you might have met, maybe not at this point, but I want to make sure that you are familiar with who they are, their names, because I know that your children will be coming home talking about different lessons and different interactions with those counselors. And our elementary counseling team, they're a part of our wider team throughout the district K through 12. You're very lucky. I'm very lucky to be in Mahwah, in a district that invests in school counseling at all levels. So as your children move on throughout the grades, they will have counselors as they move to our 4-5 school at Joyce Kilmer, to the middle school at Ramapo Ridge, and eventually at Mahwah High School as well. So I just want to make sure that I touch on that too, that it's a continuum and a real comprehensive program, which we have here, covers students K through 12. But no matter what level you are at as a school counselor or as a parent, you can expect that we are focusing on those main values and those main ideals that I mentioned, okay? For instance, focusing on academic, social, emotional, college and career, and developing that sense of self in students. That's our goal overall, even though that might look different at different grade levels. That's hopefully what you can expect as you move throughout the schools and throughout the grade levels with your children in the future. So back to kindergarten and what you can expect in terms of what your elementary counselors will provide. And it's a great benefit to the students. So in terms of student support, we really kind of have our 3 layers here of different activities that our counselors are delivering on a daily basis, okay? So classroom lessons, number 1, this is really what we call a tier 1, intervention and something that's deliverable to all students in the classroom. And these have already started. So our counselors have already gotten into the classroom and done different lessons on different SEL topics, which I'll mention in the next slide. But these are lessons that our counselors will push into classes and provide different SEL topics and lessons to students. And again, like I mentioned, those have already started. And you might see that your child brings home a little bit of information about that lesson and what they learned that day in their folder, in their backpack. So keep an eye out for those. That will be coming throughout the year as our counselors provide lessons in the classrooms. So we start with our wide range of our classroom lessons, and then we also have some other different programs that our counselors will provide, like our lunch bunch groups, which are smaller and have the counselor meeting with smaller groups during lunch. These could be referred by the teacher, something that maybe a counselor identifies that a student might have a need for a little bit more connection during lunch. So they'll also be running these lunch bunch groups throughout the year. And then thirdly, another layer is individual short-term counseling, which is based on referral. So this is something that is available and our counselors provide. But again, it's on a referral basis, primarily from the teacher or principal. So if you ever have any questions about that or that process, you can always reach out to your child's teacher. But school counseling is different than therapy or private counseling. It's individual, short-term counseling, and it will be based on referral, like I mentioned. So any questions with any of those, you can reach out to your classroom teacher if you have any questions. I mentioned some of the topics and SEL and what we'll be focusing on with those lessons. And this is a great image and a great reference tool for you as a kindergarten parent as you go throughout the next several years throughout school to familiarize yourself with. These are our CASEL competencies. And it's, like I said, a great reference point to understand what we will be focusing on from a SEL point of view as a district and as counselors, okay? CASEL is the Coalition for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, and they really divided up these competencies into 5 different areas, which we've already started in some grades talking about self-awareness, and a lot of the lessons will be based on these different SEL competencies. But this applies, again, to K through 12 and are areas that students can focus on all throughout their schooling and are really important to developing the whole child, the whole person. So we have self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So when we talk about SEL, sometimes that can seem like a very broad term or a large umbrella, but this is really what we are focusing on, and it's a great reference tool to really look at as you see your child grow throughout the years in the different areas we're trying to help support them with. But this is what, in terms of lessons, when you get those slips of paper that explain maybe what your child did in a classroom lesson, these are our reference points, these CASEL competencies. And finally, some tips. This is directly from Ms. Capani and Ms. Murphy. They developed a list of some tips for kindergarten parents to think about. So even though it's a lot, I kind of like a one-pager of things to think about. So these were kind of a top 10 or a top 9 list of different tips at this point. And these are things to think about throughout the year. It's nothing that anyone is going to solve and be perfect at right away, but just some things, if you want to hear from the counselors what they would recommend that parents focus on at this point, this is the list that they put together. Okay, so I'll just go through just a few. Establishing a routine obviously is important, but it takes time, and you have to give yourself grace with that too. We're about a month into school, and obviously this is a new routine for a lot of our students. Okay, this is also important as we go throughout and you look at the calendar and we have days off. So to be able to establish a routine at this point and still try to help promote that as we go throughout days off over the next month or even into November when we have an early week of a few half days and some days off, that can be very difficult and throw a child off of their routine. So just trying to establish that routine and trying to maintain it, again, very difficult to be perfect with that. But that's a tip that I know a lot of us probably are already focusing on. Secondly, talking positively about school and just setting a positive tone, keeping it fun and upbeat and a place of positivity is really important. But just being aware of how we talk about school, that was a tip. Normalizing big feelings, that's natural, especially with a new routine and a new setting. There are going to be some big feelings, and just being able to talk those out and understand that those are going to be there and be present even throughout the year as you go throughout, not just at the beginning. Encouraging independence, again, that kind of goes hand in hand with the routine as well, of just having an emphasis on independence, but growing independence as well. That, again, it's not going to be perfect right away, but that's what we're striving for some continued independence and really taking what's encouraged in the classroom and bringing that through to home as well and reinforcing that sense of independence. We all know reading is important, but reading books about school that just set a positive tone could be a great tip. Building on those SEL skills, so at least you have that reference point of that CASEL wheel that I showed you prior, that those are really the areas that your school will be focusing on with SEL, and just trying to really enforce that at home as well is really important. Fostering friendships, social awareness is one of those SEL skills. Connections are extremely important. Okay, so whether it's looking to arrange play dates or having some kind of connections with other students is a really important part that we don't want to lose sight of as they're adjusting to a new school and a new routine. communicating with the teacher. I'm sure you've heard this before, but just trying to keep that open line of communication about any concerns that you might have, and collaborating are really important to the homeschool partnership as well. So just keep that in mind. And one thing that's come up a few times is keeping goodbyes, brief as possible. We know that can be extremely tough, especially in certain days or at certain times throughout the year. But just having that confidence that you're dropping them off to a place that you feel comfortable with and safe sets a really important tone. So trying to keep those, genuine but brief, is a major tip that I know Ms. Capani and Ms. Murphy wanted to mention as well. Okay. And finally, I know that I said top 10 and that's really 9. Taking care of yourself as well. Kindergarten, like we mentioned, is a really big transition for parents as well as children. And knowing that things are not necessarily going to be perfect at all times, or especially early on in the year, modeling self-care and giving yourself some grace is really important as well. It's an important thing to model. So hopefully I kind of achieved the goal of just exposing you to what school counseling is and what is available and what you can expect this year from your elementary school counselors, and also beyond this year. You are the Mahwah class of 2038, which sounds crazy to think about, and we all know time flies, but we hope that you feel supported throughout all of those years, but especially this important kindergarten year, and we hope you all have a great year. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara. At this time, I'm going to open up for questions. I want to thank all of you for your time today. If you have any questions, I have not received any in the chat as of yet. I recognize that kindergarten is both an exciting time, but also can be a challenging and scary time for parents, especially if this is your first child entering kindergarten. I have two children, one of whom loved kindergarten and thrived in the setting from day one, and a son who resisted for about 6 months until he finally got his footing. So we recognize that it could be challenging, but also very exciting, and we're here to support you along your journey. There are resources available to you from each of our schools with regards to the rhyming session that we talked about today. We have rhyming books that can be recommended to you from your child's teacher, and games that can be borrowed through our libraries. And I know that the school counselors will be sending out information to each of you about the lessons that were shared in this video today. This will be recorded and posted on our Parent Academy website for your reference. And we look forward to sharing more information with you as the year progresses. So I'm going to open it up for the next couple of minutes. If anyone has any last minute questions that they'd like to pop into the chat that I can share with the team. Okay, I don't see any. I want to thank everyone for their time tonight. We have a bunch of parent academies planned out throughout the course of the year, focusing on a bunch of different topics, academics. We have social emotional learning, and we want to make sure that we cover a wide range of topics this year. So please make sure to access our Parent Academy calendar, which is on our district website under the Curriculum and Instruction tab. We have a bunch coming up in October for if you have students in multiple schools. Oh, I see a question on the chat. Hold on. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. It wasn't a question. It was just a thank you. We look forward to seeing you throughout the course of this year. And please feel free to reach out. Are there any topics that you would like us to explore, to present for future sessions? Please feel free to send me an email, and we're happy to. Oh, we do have a question. We use a reading.com app to practice reading and blending. Is that something that you would recommend? So go ahead, Lauren.
I'm not familiar with that app, but I'm sure that, if I know a lot of applications, you plug in your child's age or their grade level, and they will tailor that to, your child's needs. So I'm sure that it would take that into consideration. And then typically what happens is as they start to master one skill in an application, they will then send that child on to another part of phonological awareness. So I'm sure it's not hurting.
Definitely not hurting. And I always tell parents as long as the kids are enjoying it and you're not sensing this level of frustration from them, the minute they start to show some level of frustration, you want to stop, right? Because the minute we start making reading challenging and a task, we don't want to change the narrative for them about that reading is exciting and fun and so something that they want to look forward to. So the minute it starts to become challenging, then I would say stop. Mm-hmm. But if this is something that they're able to do and feel good about themselves as readers, then I would certainly suggest keep going with it. You're welcome. Okay, anybody else? Oh, 3 new ones. Oh, no. Nope, I think that's it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We look forward to seeing you throughout the course of the school year. Please feel free to reach out to us so we can support you along the way, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.